So today I want to talk about 10 cases where people either promoting technology or not promoting technology and they forgot about the disabled community. And these are just 10 cases just to show you that when you're talking about developing technologies, you need to talk about the disabled community. And you might not think all of this and think it's a good idea first, but when you but after the problems start appearing, you need to address it. So I'm not saying that you should have known all this beforehand, or anyone. I've learned this stuff too from discussions. Just please listen when you hear it, and be a little more open-minded to discussions. So here we go. One is, I often get this, why don't I wear contacts instead? I wear glasses with my bad vision. Well, there's many reasons. First of all, when I get many migraines and headaches. I also easily get distracted. I also have mild sensory issues, which sensory issues can lead to anxiety with lights. And taking off my glasses helps me calm down. It helps with headaches. Same thing as like turning off a bunch of lights can help with headaches, and headaches can be really severe. And it can help in so many other ways with relaxing. Also, I easily get distracted, so taking off means my world collapses and I can focus on stuff. I also have pretty bad hands-eye coordination, and I oftentimes hurt myself doing simple tasks, such as I've hurt myself tying my shoes. I used to hurt myself all the time when they forced me to try a jump rope as a child. I have oftentimes fallen downstairs when I'm overloaded, and I'm really worried that I would, by mistake, poke my eyes out, and I've hurt myself trying to do similar tasks. So, yeah, you really don't want to mess with your eyes. I'm also not neat and organized, and I don't always see what I'm doing, so I could, by mistake, touch the contact lenses wrong without noticing it and end up in infections. And I have numerous times touched something by mistake that I shouldn't have touched. And I've noticed this with pens, and I got ink over me without me noticing, or other things. I've all the time rubbed stuff into my eyes by mistake. I also have, like many autistics, my reflexes kind of can be quite dramatic at times. So I have a really hard time opening my mouth up for doctors and like moving my tongue out of the way. Whenever they try to put anything in my mouth, I try to bite it and I try to move my tongue around it, and it's really hard to suppress, and dentists hate me. Looking at bright lights is really hard for me and all this stuff, and but whenever I go to eye doctors, it's a real chance to keep my eye open, and it usually takes me twice as long as they think it should, the whole visit and everything, and eye drops are a real chance for me. So that's huge. It's also very fear-inducing, anxiety-inducing for me. Other reasons that some other people might have is contact lenses can make your eyes more dry. If you have severe dryness already, that could be a huge problem. Also, for people like me, contact lenses can be more expensive. Some people might not be able to afford them. But beyond not being able to, beyond that, it might be more expensive if you lose them a lot. Glasses, you can search around forever for, but a contact lens, if I mess up a contact lens, if I, by mistake, touch a contact lens wrong or mess it up and I need a new contact lens, or I'm constantly taking it on and out that and keep needing to put them back in, I'm going to use them up a lot more fast, and that expense is going to add up really quickly. Also, there's glass trading systems, which I forgot to mention, but glass trading can really help make glasses and more affordable, and people with eye troubles more affordable that just can't buy it outright at all. It's also environmentally more friendly. That's a side note. So yeah, there's many reasons why I wear glasses, not contact lenses, even though people keeps telling me to wear contact lenses. So I'm going to link a much better video about this below. This is not something personal, so I don't really know about it as much. But some people have asked people that do not need wheelchairs, why do they insist on using wheelchairs and wheelchair accessibility, not use crutches, walkers, sticks? And there's a couple simple answers. One is, for a lot of these people, the pain is just not worth it. The other issues that might help it, that they might cause by walking, may not be worth it. The injuries and stuff like that. An excellent point that this channel brought up is when you're using crutches or walking sticks or walkers, your hands are constantly not free to the same extent as if you use wheelchairs. So it makes it a lot easier for people to use wheelchairs. You're less likely to fall down. That's a big one. But if you have mobility issues, that can be a huge problem. If you fall down, it can be really hard to get back up, especially if no one else is around. Also, something I noticed is I was on crutches for a while, and I have, again, motor coordination issues, and everyone was commenting about how I kept using the crutches wrong, and it's just something, using crutches is a lot harder than you think. A lot of these devices, and for some people it might be easy, but if you have severe body coordination issues, it can be really hard, and it can also be even harder on trains. And again, if you fall down, it's pretty bad when you're on crutches. Much worse than if you fall down. You're also falling down from a higher height than from a wheelchair, and the wheelchairs, you're less likely to fall down in the first place. So that's some reasons why wheelchairs can be just superior. The only big advantage of crutches is that they let you access places you normally can't, and you're taller. I think they should look into developing some hybrid and I saw some research about a wheelchair that would let you stand up or change positions more. So this was a big one for the environmental movement, is ban the straws. First of all, plastic bags, and I'll actually get to plastic bags, can cause so much as an add-on. Straws can cause they do cause environmental issues, but there's much bigger things to fly. Turning off the lights will often be a much bigger thing. Not wasting gas on cars. Eating more environmentally friendly. So many bigger ways of dealing with this issue. Straws are just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of it. And then there's personally reducing straws, or not offering to everyone, offering them if you ask for it, or having a straw dispenser at your table so you can get straws. Then for a lot of people, so yeah, it's not a big, there's other ways of reducing it and ways we could still give us straws with it. But straws are necessary for some people. Some people do something called, they have mobility issues or drinking issues that they need to drink through straws. And that can be that they can't bend over and pick up cups well because their hands are shaky or too weak, or they don't have the same mobility. There's issues where they have the gastrointestinal tract is really sensitive, and when you drink through straw, you get less air. You're less likely to get gas trapped, which might mess up your gastrointestinal tract. There's hot and cold and sensory issues that can be extreme, and you can control better with a straw how much liquid you're sucking. But you can't even just use any straw. Sometimes you need plastic straws because they're flexible, so you can bend them more in shape. But if you are a person that bites or stims a lot, and stimming is when you do some accent for sensory stimuli, and it's very important, especially in autistic people, to self-regulate, to control their emotions, to just think, to be themselves, to express themselves. But it happens on an unconscious level. When you do it, anxiety builds up. It's also something they do. Oftentimes we do unconsciously, so we don't know we're doing it. But some people stim a lot, and they just can't stop. And there's people also have motor issues that cause them to bite and stuff. And if you have a metal straw, a lot of other straws, this chewing and biting can, if it's paper, can quickly break the paper, or the paper can't handle hot liquids, or it can cause you to cut yourself. So we do need plastic straws in these cases. Well, why shouldn't we move to a fully cashless society? Well, besides if you want to be sneaky and try avoiding certain penalties and complications, some people I have heard that with cash, it helps them avoid gambling, overspending, or other urges because they can see the money go away. Now, this is not all people. I don't like cash because I lose stuff too easily. It's too much to keep track in my mind. And keeping track of one credit card is a lot easier in my mind than all this cash that can float around everywhere. It's just so much easier just to focus on little amount of things. But for some people, cash can really help them control their lives much, much, much better. So we can't just plainly get rid of cash. Okay, this is a big one that doesn't affect me, but I've heard it a lot of times. Why don't we just give everyone hearing aids? Or why don't we force people to use hearing aids in every circumstances and not teach sign language? So, this is, again, I have fine hearing. I have some auditory processing issues, but they're not due to hearing aids. They're not something hearing aids would help. This is also kind of the point I'm going to get to. But hearing aids, when you use them, you lose a lot of the sophistication of sounds, and they're not very good at filtering out certain sounds, or they amplify certain sounds wrong. So it comes like a distorted background, which can hurt in communication, especially like people's voices might amplify the wrong person's voice, or you might not know how to filter out the voices well because it messes up the noise. So it can make it really hard for people to listen to someone while there's music playing, because of how it amplifies noise or distorts noise, and other things like that. Another huge one is just comfort. Oh, I see it is comfort. It can cause major comfort issues in some people. Major comfort issues. And it can sometimes fall out or stop working or get damaged. And then having the backup of sign language or something, other forms of communication, can be very, very useful, especially if it gets damaged or something. Another thing is that I've put down here, but somehow got cut off, is that when you have hearing aids, you have to have the person with the hearing aids be ready at all times to have it in. They have to take it out in the morning, but let's say there's an emergency, or they have to quickly get out of bed. They have to put the hearing aids in immediately. They always have to have the hearing aids. They have to take it out in the shower, then put it in and everything. That means there are times when they can't communicate, and you put that burden on them. So it's a little nice to take a little responsibility and learn sign language or something like that, alternative means. Or there's other times for some people. Now, sometimes you even don't know when you can't use your hearing aids. There's something, some people, when they're overwhelmed, they stop hearing or stop, and it's a real thing because the brain just can't process auditory information. This can happen to people randomly, usually not randomly, sometimes randomly, but this can happen to people unexpectedly. There's more what I mean, that something bad just happens or there's a lot of noise. Then having them have to suddenly take out the hearing aids and put them in is bad. And like, normally they might not want to use hearing aids, these same people, because normally hearing aids, they might hear better without the hearing aids. It's only sometimes, so constantly have to think about putting in and out. Another one is it's not going to help always with auditory processing issues, which is something I have and a lot of other autistic people have. With auditory processing issues, it's not that I can't physically hear you, is that I can't make out what you're saying, because, or I can't analyze the noise well, and it confuses me. It's a combination of memory, it's a combination of identifying the sounds, and so much more. I can kind of describe it's like if you're looking at a light that's too bright, like the sun, even though the sun is perfectly fine and a good, you see it, it's bright, you can't because it's just overwhelming. When I'm having auditory processing issues, I know the sound, or sometimes I don't even know it because I'm, like it's the same thing like the sun blinds you, the sound just overwhelms me and I can't no longer hear you effectively, and talking loud doesn't But it's not only the physical loudness, physical loudness. It's also the complexity. Again, if you're in a room and there's 500 people talking, you can't process every single person talking. If there's so much going on, you can't process everything. So you also have this complexity factor when there's just too many different noises going on that I can't separate into just one big mush of noise that I can't really make out. Another one that can be is that it's also, if I'm not paying attention, I need to pay attention to what you say to process it. And maybe I'm simply not paying attention. And it also, like, if I'm overwhelmed in any other way, it more easily happens to me. Just like if you're really tired, everyone when is really tired mishears things, they're not as quick and stuff. It's just a more extreme version of that. But hearing aids do not help with auditory processing issues oftentimes. They just plainly do not help with those issues. Instead, alternative forms of communication, from everything from sign language can help, but some people sign not really sign, to texting, to typing stuff out, to drawing pictures, to AACs, which are alternative ways of communicating with like technology, with boards and pictures and all sorts of ways. All that can help people. Also, for some people, hearing aids cause tinnitus, which is a ringing in the ear, which can really be annoying, or they cause really annoying noises to be heard, which can really bother them. So yeah, hearing aids, definitely not the solution. Oh yeah, and one last one for hearing aids is that there's a whole death culture that you should really look into, and I'll post some links of people not liking it, and we don't want to lose that culture. Culture is important. Okay, so another one that's big is just different methods of IDing people in general, from facial recognition to touch IDs to passwords. All of them have huge issues, and that's why we need multiple ones. People's fingerprints can change if they had a bad accident. Also, your face can change if you have a bad accident. But your face could change if you go on surgery, if you do anything to alter your looks drastically for whatever reason. You could be wearing gloves because your hands easily get cold. Or you could be wearing gloves because you don't want to get sick. Because you have an infection, you could be wearing a bunch of masks that could get in the way of facial recognition. So it also could be like you just don't want to get sick, or you have to keep extra warm. Other reasons is that you might have mobility issues, so it might be hard to type in, to touch everything, or to line up your face, or you might also not see the screen or see the thing, and you might need to do everything by hand, lining up. But then also passwords are not the best. And passwords is what I struggle with, because of dyslexia, dyspraxia, and a bunch of other things, I mistype my passwords all the freaking times. It can take me oftentimes 10 or more times to type in a password. Yeah, it's really annoying. And that sometimes means I get locked out of accounts that are mine. I can get, beyond getting locked out, I raise a lot of security issues, so I'm always tweaking security issues on my bank, on everything. I've triggered security issues at the university and got phone calls from the university admin about they think I was hacking in or something, but I was just mistyping the password so many freaking times and stuff like that. Then also people could have memory issues for remembering passwords, which is a big deal. And sometimes it's not, the memory is usually good, but when I'm overwhelmed, words and stuff don't come to me, and that includes passwords. So memory issues can be a huge part of it. And usually that's when you're overwhelmed and most need them. So for me, facial recognition and touch ID might be better, but for different people, different things, and we can't just promote one overall one, is the basic point. Captioning. So captioning was something that was made a big deal, that they got rid of it on YouTube, except for now it's either you have to pay a bunch of money or it's the auto captioning. It's not community captioning. Well, why is this a huge deal? First of all, we have, again, auditory processing problems, which again, many autistics have, but also non-autistics. And that means that we can't hear the words, and we should have the same access as everyone else to the same material. So auditory processing, huge problem. Even if we're only 1% or less of the population, you're still leaving out 1%, and that means we can't help you back if you leave us out. And so many missed opportunities. And you might say, like, YouTube and TV is not a big deal. Yeah, it is, okay? We're talking YouTube has a lot of educational material for people out there, surprisingly. A lot of people learn stuff from YouTube tutorials, but it's also entertainment, it's part of culture. It's also where we can communicate to each other. So captioning is a huge deal. Again, all problems with hearing problems. You have people that are learning, use it to learn languages. They watch YouTube videos, and the YouTube videos captioning teaches them how to better speak the language and what letters rhyme to what words. It's been used in everything from second language learners to people learning it as a hobby outside of school to young kids I know have used that. So YouTube is actually, and just videos with captions in general. But my mom told me that's how she learned. She learned a lot of the things she learned in languages was from watching videos in other languages, and she speaks multiple languages. She also learned it in other places, but fine to use. I know Hebrew language speakers that learned Hebrew from watching Hebrew TV shows. People learn Spanish the same way in English. Also, captioning by community provides a lot of jobs, stuff like that. Now, it also provides, if it's a translated caption, it can be even better in that it can connect different parts of the world together. And it can teach new languages even better because if it's translated, you can match up the English word to maybe the translated Hindi, Chinese, Spanish, French, Hebrew, whatever. But that's even better. But it does also provide a lot of jobs. And some of those jobs are jobs that disabled people can have that can't attend a normal job but know languages and can just do a simple task. Not always simple, but can do a task. Now YouTube does have an auto translate one, but it doesn't always work. It's not always as, sometimes it completely doesn't work. It's not as accurate. It's about 5% less accurate or more, depending. It's less accurate if you have, for example, speech problems. So speech problems, the auto-translate doesn't work as well, which is a huge deal. It doesn't work well for people that have languages that are not common. So it works best in English. It really doesn't. A lot of these auto-translates do not work well in other languages, and I've seen that. Also, it does. Also, when you have these captioning, you can do a new language, and the ability of YouTube to translate English to another language is awful. I sometimes do, something I do like to do is, for sillies, is take people's texts that are not in English and translate to English on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, and you get so funny nonsense out of it. They just have no idea what they're saying. I really recommend, if you have a friend that posts in another language, to translate it, or if you do it in a different one, English, and see the hilarious things. And again, jobs. So that's why captioning is important. Handwriting. Okay. So my handwriting might seem archaic, but it's still made a big deal in some schools. That you must, in college I had people saying, you must write out everything, blah, 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 blah. And they made a huge deal about teaching handwriting and having stuff neat and organized, or that you must do by hand. There's some really major problems. One thing is I forgot to mention is there's no autocorrect or spell check or something which can really help people with bad grammar, but with a lot of people with dyspraxia or dyslexia, and dyslexia both of them can increase bad handwriting. People with dyslexia oftentimes have bad handwriting, which the more extreme form is dyspraxia, when specifically handwriting. Sometimes it doesn't affect other motor skills, but dyspraxia oftentimes affects handwriting when you can't move your body as well and coordinate it. So handwriting can be really atrocious. Now, I can sometimes make up for this, but when I do make up for it, I'm doing a lot slower than it would take me ever to type up the same thing. So I can't express myself, and my handwriting gets especially bad when I'm doing letters that I've practiced over and over again, but when I'm doing math symbols or I have to organize a text or something like that by hand, or when I'm forced to do cursive. There's also a bunch of people out there with muscle problems that they have muscle weakness or they more easily get cramps or ligaments, and handwriting might be not as practical to them as typing. Now, typing also has its problems. Typing can, for some people, cause carpal tunnel or hurt their wrists. So typing isn't the perfect answer either. Some people are really sensitive to the noise the keyboard makes. But we need to be more flexible and accommodating both types, is all I'm saying kind of here. Okay, so I think this is the last one, but dress codes can be hugely important. But people make and negatively affecting people, and dressing up is kind of a technology, but people talk about, I have a really hard time tying my shoes. And I only learned how to tie my shoes until like somewhere in high school. Yeah. Again, dyspraxia and other issues with body. It's also very uncomfortable, a lot of clothing, which distracts me. But with the problem with tying, but why should some places want to have tied shoes and they made a huge stink about it. Well, why not? Can't I just use slip-ons or other clothes that are easy to put on? Now, this doesn't only extend to that. It extends to, I have trouble with button-down t-shirts, just organizing the buttons right. And the more stuff that's going on, especially in the morning, the harder it is. So it's like t-shirts I can just put on, or I keep it buttoned, looser clothes. And like I have a really hard time putting bow ties or dressing up fancy. So dress codes can really affect negatively people that just have a hard time getting dressed. It can also be a huge comfort issue, and you might feel like, oh, comfort, just suck it up. But whenever you're uncomfortable, you can't focus as well, and you just can't do stuff as well, and that can be a huge issue. So like, if I'm constantly whispering something in your ear that's really annoying, you might be able to ignore it, but you're not going to be as focused as well doing your job. So yes, dress codes should be comfortable. Not only should they be comfortable, but with that, some people do get actual skin rashes or have really sensitive skin that's easily peeled off or have other problems. So in those extreme cases, and sometimes it can cause immune reaction that can end up in like a really bad allergic reaction or blisters. Letting people just dress however they want is usually a good idea. If there's a legit safety concern, fine. If it's tradition, you might want to say that please dress like this unless you have a good reason. Leave it open, but yeah. Comfort. Also body temperature. Some people need to dress up extra warm because they have health problems that they can't keep the body as warm. Other thing is, when your body needs to work hard to keep warm, it can trigger, or cold can trigger coughing, asthma attacks. It can trigger blood flow problems. So people that already have blood flow problems or need more blood to the body can have it. But on the other hand, some people easily overheat. Like I really easily overheat. So I need to dress cooler. And all these things means that you shouldn't really boss around dress codes. Oh, and this is the real last one. So I think fancy presentations. Well, this is one that really annoys me, and you might tell by some of my videos. Well, there's a lot of issues. For some people, the fancier presentation is, the less likely it's to be compatible with all technology, and this specifically affects technology that disabled people use. So disabled people sometimes can't have problems with seeing images or texts that are fancy. So they just want a simple type out text that they can magnify on the phones or change fonts or change the color brightness or scales so they can more easily process it or see it. They also, but the fancier the technology, the less likely it's to be compatible with their types of readers that help them read, the magnifying features, and all these other things. PDF documents are some of the easiest just to magnify, not to manipulate text, but just as an example, or just Facebook posts without the background actually work a lot better, which is why if you see in groups that look at accessibility, they have the picture, and then they'll have accessibility text that describes the picture, or if they have like colors, they will have the colors with the text and the text without the colors, so you can magnify and change it. Or it also sometimes makes it easier to copy and paste, which can help a lot of ones because we have trouble wording stuff, so copy and pasting can be a huge help with wording. I use it a lot. I don't plagiarize. I either use my own words, or I cite it, or I do something like just a definition that's really standard and I change it up. But yeah, overloading. So a lot of fancy presentations can be very overloading to a lot of autistic people and sensitive people with it. I remember this happened all the time to me in school with always weird sound effects. I hate Bill Nye the Science Guy, which I kept showing because I just could not focus with all the things. And yeah, so like a simple presentation, less likely to overload us. We can focus more and we can absorb the information more. Keep it simple. KISS principle. Also, on the other hand, when we're trying to make fancy stuff, if you have any disability, it can make a lot more work to make all these fancy stuff. It can take longer to, if you have motor issues, just to type it up, to move it, to make it neat. If you have issues wording stuff, to find the right words, and all these other issues. So making the fancy presentation can really lower who can actually make the presentation in the first place. And I had that issue with, I was always judged by wording and grammar, and or that my graphics weren't nice in a lot of places, and it really hurt my ability to move on. And they didn't listen to my words, they just looked at the fanciness. So I hope you found this interesting and useful, and if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them behind. And this was just a scattered talk of many interesting points, as that's what I had time to do kind of this week. Thank you very much, and please like and subscribe and share it. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers in like the next 11 months and 4,000 hours of watch time, which is really hard, but I think it's doable, but I need your help. Thank you very much. And if you want to contact me, just leave stuff in the comments in any way.